Hello everyone, today we are going to see about pleura and muscles of respiration. Pleura, single layer of mesothelium. It covers the lungs into two layers. Here the schematic picture to show the thoracic wall and the lungs, which is covered by two layers of pleura, the outermost parietal pleura, the inner visceral pleura. In between there is a cavity, we call it as pleural cavity. Parietal pleura. The outermost layer we call it as parietal pleura, which lines the entire thoracic cavity. Whereas inner layer, visceral pleura, which is completely adherent with the lung parenchyma. Coming to the parts of parietal pleura, according to its location, we can differentiate into costal part, diaphragmatic part, mediastinal part and cervical part. Coming to cervical part, a dome-shaped extension which will cover the apex of the lungs. This dome-shaped extension which will extend above the first rib for about 1.5 inches, 2.5 to 4 centimeters above the first rib. This cervical part which lies beneath a tough fascia above, we call it a suprapleural membrane or Simpson's fascia. Coming to mediastinal part, the pleura which lines the medial surface of the lung, mediastinal surface of the lung, we call it as mediastinal pleura. Costal pleura which lines the costal surface, intercostal space under the ribs. Diaphragmatic part, it lies above the diaphragm, the pleura which covers the diaphragm, diaphragmatic part. Visceral pleura, the innermost layer we call it as visceral pleura. Here the schematic picture which shows the red colored marked picture structure, we call it as visceral pleura, which is completely adherent with the lung parenchyma, which will extend deep to the fissure, so that which will divide into lobes. Coming to the reflections, parietal pleura which will go for reflection near the root of the lung. Okay, so here the schematic picture to show the root of the lung which is completely covered by a sleeve like structure, which is nothing but parietal pleura. We call it as pulmonary ligament. At the root of the lung, numerous structures which will enters and exits. This pulmonary ligament, which is composed by parietal pleura and loose areolar tissue, and you can see lymph nodes. Coming to nerve supply of pleura, it has various nerve supply. The costal part, it gets nerve supply from intercostal nerves. The mediastinal part, it gets innervation from the phrenic nerve, and diaphragmatic pleura, it gets innervation from the phrenic nerve and lower 6 intercostal nerves. Parietal pleura, being a part of the chest wall, which is supplied by somatic nerves, lower 6 intercostal nerves, phrenic nerves. Nerve supply of visceral pleura, which is insensitive to common sensation like pain and touch. It receives the autonomic innervation from the pulmonary plexus. Coming to blood supply, pleura gets blood supply from musculophrenic artery, intercostal arteries and internal thoracic artery. The vein drains mostly into asagas and internal thoracic veins. Pulmonary pleura, which gets blood supply from the bronchial arteries. Lymphatic drainage, we can divide into parietal pleura and visceral pleura. Parietal pleura is drained into intercostal, internal mammary, posterior mediastinal and diaphragmatic nodes. Visceral pleura, it is drained by bronchopulmonary lymph nodes. Coming to pleural cavity, there is a potential space in between two layers, parietal layer and visceral layer. We call it as pleural cavity. This pleural cavity which will be situated on either side of the mediastinum, which will extend above the first rib near the root of the neck, inferiorly which will extend above the costal margin, medially wall of each pleural cavity, the mediastinum. Coming to pleural recess. Lung do not completely fill the anterior or posterior inferior region of the pleural cavities. So there is a gap anteriorly, posteriorly, inferiorly. This results in recess in which two layers of parietal pleura becomes opposed. Expansion of lung into these spaces usually occurs in forced inspiration. The recess provides potential space for the collection of fluid or pus or blood in certain pathological conditions, and it can be aspirated. Costodiaphragmatic recess. There is a gap between costal pleura and diaphragmatic pleura. Costal pleura and diaphragmatic pleura, there is a recess, we call it as costodiaphragmatic recess. Coming to pleural fluid, which is 5 to 10 ml clear fluid which lubricates the opposing surface of the visceral and parietal pleura during respiratory movements. So here the picture to show abnormal collection of fluid, we call it as pleural effusion, which will pushes the normal lung, the affected lung which will pushes the normal lung. The collection of fluid in the pleural cavity, we call it as pleural effusion. Pleurisy. Inflammation of pleura, which is otherwise called pleuritis. The pleura become roughened and there is a friction between parietal pleura and visceral pleura, and this friction can be heard through stethoscope during inspiration and expiration. Pneumothorax. Pneumothorax, which is nothing but collection of air. Air gets trapped inside the pleural cavity during accidents, chest injury or stab injury with a sharp knife. What will happen? The outside atmospheric air goes and trap inside the pleural cavity. The accumulation of air inside the pleural cavity, we call it as pneumothorax. Sometimes during accidents, along with blood also. Air in the pleural cavity associated with the fluid. Hydropneumothorax. Collection of fluid, hydrothorax, or collection of blood, hemothorax. Sometimes air and blood goes and accumulate. Okay, so if fluid goes accumulate, okay, so towards gravity, so it will go and fill at the near the base of the lung, whereas if air, it will go and accumulate near the apex. So this picture to show pneumothorax, and here you can see hemothorax. Pneumothorax. Air and blood, it goes and accumulate during chest trauma. What will happen if there is any penetration injury? The outside atmospheric air, it goes and trap inside the pleural cavity along with the blood. So we call it as, the condition we call it as hemopneumothorax. Coming to muscles of respiration. There are some muscles which will responsible for respiration, expiration and inspiration. The diaphragm, accessory muscles of respiration, and some abdominal muscles which will helpful for respiration. Here the schematic picture to show inspiration, the muscles responsible for inspiration and expiration. The muscles responsible for inspiration include sternocleidomastoid, scalenus muscle, pectoralis minor muscle, serratus anterior muscle. Some of the muscles here we studied in our last semester. Accessory muscles of expiration, internal intercostal muscle, transverse thoracic muscle, external oblique muscle, and rectus abdominis muscle. Again, other schematic picture to show muscles of inspiration and expiration. So here you can see sternocleidomastoid muscle and scalenus muscle. External intercostal muscle, which will fill the intercostal space, and diaphragm. All these muscles are responsible for inspiration, and the muscles of expiration: internal intercostal muscle, external oblique muscle, rectus abdominis muscle. Coming to inspiratory muscles, the muscles includes diaphragm, external intercostal muscle, accessory muscles, which includes scalenus muscle and pectoralis major muscle. We already studied about diaphragm. We already studied about scalenus muscle and pectoralis major muscle in our last semester. We'll see about diaphragm. Diaphragm is C-shaped fibromuscular structure which divides the thoracic cavity into abdominal cavity. It has superior surface and inferior surface. Superior surface, it forms the floor of the thoracic cavity, whereas inferior surface of diaphragm, it forms the roof of the abdominal cavity. So that which will divide the two compartments, thoracic into abdominal. So this muscle which is responsible for inspiration during contraction. Coming to the parts of the diaphragm, which includes right dome of the diaphragm, left dome of the diaphragm, and central tendon. The right dome of the diaphragm, which is little above than the left, it reaches above the upper border of fifth rib, whereas left dome of the diaphragm, it reaches the lower border of the fifth rib. The right dome of the diaphragm is slightly higher than the left because beneath a large solid organ situated liver. In between there is a central tendon, which is aponeurotic part, which is non-muscular. We call it a central tendon. Coming to the origin of diaphragm, we have three different origin: sternal origin, costal origin, and vertebral origin. Okay, so schematic picture, the cross section of the abdominal cavity to show xiphisternum, costal margin, and posteriorly you will be having lumbar vertebra and posterior abdominal muscles. Okay, anterior abdominal wall and posterior abdominal wall. Okay, so we will be having sternal origin from xiphisternum, costal origin from the costal margins, and vertebral origin from the lumbar vertebra. It has just now explained we have three different origin: sternal part, which will be arising from xiphi process, costal origin, which will be arising from the lower six ribs, and vertebral origin, which will be arising like a crus, which is nothing but an extension. Okay, right crus and left crus. Right crus which will be arising from L1, L2 and L3, whereas left crus which will be arising from L1 and L2. Okay, so in between this crus there is an arc-like tendinous structure. We call it as median arcuate ligament. Okay, lateral to that, near the posterior abdominal wall, there is arc-like attachment. Okay, so this arc-like attachment we call it as medial arcuate ligament, and this arc-like attachment we call it as lateral arcuate attachment. Okay, so vertebral origin includes crus, okay, right crus and left crus, and also arcuate ligaments on either side. Insertion: all these muscle fibers which will converge at center to form a aponeurotic part, we call it a central tendon. Coming to the openings of diaphragm, there are major openings at the level of T8, T10 and T12. Okay, so T8 is for inferior vena cava, and T10 is for esophagus, and T12 for aorta. And there are some minor openings, okay, for the passage of sympathetic trunk, Seyer's vein, etc. Coming to external intercostal muscle, which fulfills the intercostal space between the ribs. Okay, so the muscle which will be arising from the lower border of the rib above, and it will go and attaches with the upper border of the rib below. Okay, so the direction of muscle fibers, it is like downwards medially. Nerve supply of this muscle is intercostal nerve, and this muscle during contraction, what will happen, which will elevate the rib. Coming to scalenus muscle, we have three different scalenus muscle according to its location: scalenus anterior, medius and posterior, which will be arising from the anterior tubercle of the cervical vertebra, and it will go and insert into the ribs, first and second rib. Okay, so during contraction, which will elevate the first rib and second rib during inspiration.